Hey friends, welcome back to Sound Living with Madi. Today I have my neighbor Stacie joining me. I'm so excited for this episode. She is the one who got all of our neighborhood moms into freshly milled flour. She has been working full time. She's been making bread for her family at home. She is the neighbor that you can go to and talk about anything, home births, menstrual discs, whatever. Nothing is off limits. So Stacie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me. This is an honor to be here.
This is a Soak podcast.
Hey, I'm Madi, and this is Sound Living, a space for real conversations about intentional living, wellness, and personal growth. Here, we dive into practical tools, mindset shifts, and the little changes that make a big impact. Whether you're looking to create balance, build better habits, or just feel more in tune with yourself, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Okay, so you were the first neighbor in our little neighborhood moms group to get into the fresh milled flour, right?
Yes.
And then it slowly started to spread, and you've been doing it for what, a year?
Just about a year at this point.
Yeah. And then I ran into Erica, another one of our neighbors at the grocery store, and I was trying to figure out what to pack for school lunches because I haven't had to do this before. This is the first year our daughter's going to like a school where she has to have a lunch. And I said, she will only eat bread and like tortillas. And I really want her to have nutrients. And Erica was like, well, you know. And so began the rabbit hole. But I don't know that I've ever asked you what got you into the freshly milled flour.
Yeah, it's a great question. So we had just moved back to Tulsa about 2 years ago, and we were invited to a friend's New Year's Eve party. And so I don't know if you know this, but my husband, he has been told for the longest time that he has to eat gluten-free, which is so ironic because he grew up on a farm in Oregon and they grew wheat and barley. So he grew up around wheat his whole life, ate it for the longest time. And then in the last 10, 15 years started to gain a big sensitivity to it. So throughout our marriage, we've been together 14, almost 15 years. We've had to make that adjustment to stop cooking and using bread products and gluten, which is devastating. So anyways, fast forward back to this New Year's Eve party that we were at with our friends. He came up to me and said, hey, you have to try this. I think it was an apple crisp that our friend made. And I was like, you shouldn't be eating that. And he was like, no, she told me it's okay because it was freshly milled flour. And, we have the kids running around and I was like, okay, sure. I didn't know what he was talking about. Well, the next morning I asked him, I was like, how are you feeling? Because he always would feel bad if he would cheat. He would always feel bad the next day. And he said that he felt great. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. So our friend Yana, who had been milling her own flour, we got together and she ended up hosting a group of moms at her house to just show us the process, the equipment that she has. And I dove in so deep because I love to bake. But baking gluten-free is really frustrating. And so I would always just give up and get frustrated because nothing ever turned out. And also, if I would bake regular non-gluten-free food, he would get mad because it was something that he couldn't eat. So I felt like I could never win with baking. And so it was really frustrating for me. So when I found out, okay, there's an option out there that works, I really need to try to figure this out, not only for him, but it also made me feel relevant in the kitchen because I don't cook. Yeah. My husband does all the cooking. And so I'm not the most domesticated. And so for me, this was just an opportunity of, hey, I can bring value in the kitchen that actually is healthy and helpful for my family. So it was all because of a New Year's Eve party where he had, again, I think it was apple crisp or something. Yeah. And that just flipped the switch on for me.
Sparked it. I love that. That's kind of a similar parallel to me and my husband. So I was telling you off air that I had been doing the keto diet for the last several months. My body felt great. My poor husband was like starving and he is actually allergic to monk fruit, which is in a ton of keto stuff. So anytime I would try to do like any type of keto sweet or like dessert or bread or anything like in the baking sphere, he couldn't have it. And I was like, I'm sorry, and then other than that, like, he could go and eat something on his own, but then he felt bad because it didn't align with like my nutritional goals. And we were just kind of always at odds. Meanwhile, our 3-year-old was just like stuffing tortillas in her face like there's no tomorrow. And I'm like, something has got to shift here. Yeah. And so it's been like there's kind of a parallel there. It's been an interesting journey for us too. But me formerly being keto, I have been so thrilled to be able to like eat bread. And I think I texted you like my first few days whenever I made the fresh milled pasta. And I said, I am eating this pasta for dinner every night, and I actually like lost a few more pounds because it makes you really regular too. It like completely clears out your gut.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how you can eat bread and not feel bloated afterwards. I don't know if you noticed that, but I'm not bloated and I actually feel satisfied and full. And it's the weirdest thing because at first it feels like a fluke until you keep eating it and realizing, no, this is actually nourishment and it's actually good for me. And then it just changes the way that you view carbs and bread products completely.
Yeah. And I want to talk about the nourishment factor because that's huge. Can you share with everyone kind of the nourishment that's behind the freshly milled flour and how it's wildly different from store-bought flour?
Yes. And so I will credit Sue Becker. If, no one's heard of Sue Becker, she used to be, well, she still is, but she's a food scientist. 30 years ago, she worked for Kraft Foods, and she is the one who came across an article one day of what freshly milling flour is, because it's not something common in today's world. And so she has done a lot of research diving into the science behind it, what the health benefits are, and how our body actually takes those nutrients. And so one of the first things I learned was that whole grains contain 44 out of the 47 essential vitamins and nutrients that sustain life. Like, it is life sustaining.
Wow.
And that just blew my mind immediately because, you hear that bread is so bad for you, but how could it be that it actually is almost everything that we need to sustain life? So that just really was eye-opening to me. It contains really high levels of vitamin E, which is a really powerful antioxidant. It has many the different B vitamins that you need. It has the perfect ratio of soluble and insoluble fiber. So you talked about it helping you be very regular. Not only does it make you regular, but it helps clean everything out and it helps build up the size of the stool so that when you do pass a stool, it's actually productive. And that was also something I noticed.
Almost like a detox factor.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like your body's been waiting for this and it's helping everything function as it should.
Yeah.
So those are just a couple things that stand out just from the nutritional aspect that caught my eye.
And there's also like kind of a biblical element. I mean, actually a huge biblical element to it as well.
Yeah. So I don't know if you thought of this, but I remember over the years being really frustrated with my husband's gluten intolerance, which is kind of selfish to say that it was frustrating for me. But I remember just at times thinking, in the Bible, Jesus refers to himself as the bread of life. And there's so many scriptures in the Old and New Testament that discuss bread as being essential for us, as being a representation of who God is to us and how he sustains us. It's in the Lord's Prayer, give us this day our daily bread. So it's referenced so many times. But then you think about how in today's society we villainize bread and talk about bread being the issue, and that just didn't make sense to me. And so that also has been really exciting for me to dive into, and just any scripture about bread, it actually gets me excited because I realize this is food that God created for us, and he designed our bodies and he knew what we would need. And it was already packaged in such a perfect way for us. Something else that's cool to think about, because when you mill your own flour, the way that you buy the bread is in a seed form. And so I have huge buckets, 5-gallon buckets of bread or of the grain. And when I first opened my bucket for the first time, I had this thought of, oh my gosh, this is what Joseph stored in Egypt during that family. Yeah, because it talks about him storing grain and preparing for the 7 years. During the 7 years of feast, he set some aside so that during the 7 years of famine, everyone would be taken care of and that they would have plenty. And when you look at it, you can tell this stores indefinitely. As long as it's stored in a cool and dry place, it can store for a long time. And something that I learned from Sue Becker's book is they found from ancient tombs from 3,000 years ago, they found seed that was stored as like a time capsule. I don't know why they did it, but it was in a tomb, some grain, and they 3,000 years later planted it and it grew. It was still viable and there were still nutrients in it. And so God knew what he was doing when he created wheat and the seed that we are supposed to eat from. So there's so many parallels to the Bible. Even, I don't know if you've found this in your bucket, the chaff, the very it's almost like straw, like thin pieces of chaff.
Yeah.
That was really cool for me because, the verse where it talks about Jesus will separate the wheat from the chaff, and the chaff will be thrown away into the fire, and the wheat, which has, the nutritional value, will be taken into the barn. And that's how it will be for us in the last days. And I never understood that because that's not relevant to our culture. I don't grow up around wheat. But when I was scooping out of my grain bucket, I would see pieces of chaff, and it's so lightweight. It just kind of floats in the wind, like it floats away in the air. Yeah. And that was so interesting to me because the first thing you think when you see it is, I need to get rid of this. And it just made that parallel to the Bible and Jesus's words about how in the last days we will be separated like the wheat and the chaff. Like the chaff is useless because it doesn't have the nutritional value of the seed. And so something that even I've read but never thought of before, I was seeing the Bible and the word come to life just by scooping grain out of my bucket, which was really unexpected.
That's so cool. Oh my gosh, I love that. And I think there's also a verse, I don't remember which one, where God is talking about, don't ever take a man's meal because then you'll like starve him or you'll, do you know that one?
Yes. I don't know the reference, but that's
I'll have to look it up and we can put it in the show notes, but it's, from the beginning, and it was a theme throughout the Bible. Like this grain was intentionally crafted to meet our needs for us to be able to store it and then use it. You mill it and then you use it, and you don't mill it and store it because then it goes bad. And then you start thinking about like the manna from heaven and trusting God and God providing for the birds of the air and the lilies of the field. And I mean, it really does just give you chills. And I was talking to one of my coworkers the other day after I made that batch of muffins, the first thing that I made with the freshly milled flour. And I was like, it's so weird because I'm not a baker. I'm a great cook. I am not like intuitive in the kitchen when it comes to baking. I like try to kind of do my own thing and nothing ever turns out well. But whenever I started baking with the freshly milled flour, it's like, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I literally felt the Holy Spirit guiding me. Like I was like, I think it's going to be this much milk. And I think I need to stop it right there. And I did. And I know that sounds so silly, but I felt very like at one with what I was doing. And the intention behind it was, I'm going to be nourishing my family. Like I'm making things that are delicious, they're nutritious, they're filling, they're going to satiate us. And I just felt like the whole process was really blessed.
That's so interesting you say that because like you said, it's just bread, it's just food. But I had the same thought that even when I was researching and trying to convince my husband, hey, can we spend all this money on a grain mill and then a mixer? It's a whole thing. But I felt so compelled and so convicted in such a beautiful way. It truly felt like the Lord was leading me to do this. And it made me feel like I was I was discovering for the first time something about God that I never knew. And I could just sense his joy. And I've had this for you this whole time. But our modern society, really it was the turn of the century with the Industrial Revolution when we started trading nutritional value for convenience. And I'm a product of that. I grew up on frozen food using a microwave. If I couldn't cook dinner in 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I was not interested just because that was the lifestyle I grew up with. And so I never appreciated until now what was created for us. What did God originally intend? And obviously that's so much better. But once you actually learn the reason, it feels very holy and it feels very honoring to the Lord. And even sharing it with others feels really special because it's not only a nutritional blessing for them, but I also just get to share more about God's perfect design. And I just think it's so neat to hear you say that because I've felt the same way about the whole process.
Oh, that's so affirming because I'm like, I feel a little crazy saying it, where like, you always kind of second guess yourself. Maybe I'm just in my head or maybe I'm excited about it, but I literally felt the Holy Spirit while I was baking. And I've never felt that with food before, it's so interesting to see where our culture is now versus where it was, back in biblical times. And I think that right now, especially, people are really like yearning for that connection with like nutrition, with the earth, like with how things kind of used to be. But, like you said, we went through this really big time of like trading everything for convenience. And, you have been working full time. You're a mom, you have 2 daughters. And you've also been able to make the time to do this and to nourish your family and provide for them, because that's one thing my husband said to me. Obviously, like, we have this company and we have our daughter, and he's like, do you really need like another thing? It's like, you know what? I do, like, because it's this, I do. And the whole thing has felt very like aligned. And it's been a great journey so far.
Yeah, I was nervous about that at first because, like you said, I work full time. I have 2 girls. we play tennis. We're very active. We are involved in our church. We're volunteering. And so I don't need more things in my schedule. We have a bunch of mom friends that we hang out with. Like our schedule and our life feels very full, but I knew this is something I have to make work. And it's been a journey, but I've had to just figure out, okay, how can I batch bake? How can I make 4 loaves? I'm about to start doing 6 at a time. I'm really excited, but I can make 6 loaves of bread at a time, and that'll last me a month. And I just freeze everything. And so at first it's time consuming because you don't know what you're doing and you're afraid to pour anything, in because you want to get everything right. But the more my confidence has grown, I've been able to find ways to make it work in my schedule, and I just do it on the weekends. And Haven, my oldest, she's 8. She loves it. She is my biggest fan, and it's exciting to her. And she'll help like pour the wheat berries into the grain mill. And so I try to make it a family thing, and they see the value in that, which has been really fun.
Yeah, and that's like a whole lesson in and of itself too. I know every time I make my pasta, my daughter loves to help. She's like, I want to catch it, because we put it through the little KitchenAid attachment that like flattens it out. She's like, I want to catch it. I want to get it. Of course, I'm like keeping her fingers away from like the rolling things. Like, we got to be careful. But, she loves to crack the eggs. She likes to catch the dough. And then I had my niece's, Olivia's daughters over, and I was making the hamburger buns, the recipe that you sent me. And Riley was helping me do the hamburger balls. And I feel like there's just such an appreciation for the food. Like, she was so excited to try it, and, because her hands were on it, and it's building values, I think.
Exactly. And it's going to be a normal part of their life as they grow up, and they're not going to think twice about it. And so I love that you're teaching them at such a young age.
So I know we touched on this a second ago, but as soon as you mill the wheat berries or the grain, the clock kind of starts ticking on is it like the bioavailability of the nutrients, or how long that they stay intact and ready for you to absorb?
Yeah. The way to think of it is, let's say you open a banana, you know how you don't have much time, and then it starts to brown. Same thing with an apple, but until you open it, it's fine, and it can last quite a while. That's how it is with wheat and flour. Once it's milled, I believe within 24 to 36 hours, it'll go rancid because of the life-giving oils and nutrients and vitamins that are in it. And so, we always mill it, and then 2 minutes later we cook with it. I don't ever just let it sit out, but you want to use it right away, because the natural oxidation process will cause it to spoil. And that's why they can't put freshly milled flour on the shelves in the store.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, how long have you had a bag of flour in your pantry, like before you got into freshly milled flour?
Oh, years.
Same.
Yeah.
Because I never baked either. I remember one time I made something, and my flour was like, I think even like 2 years expired. And it's still cooked with it. Like, it still made the recipe. And I'm like, that's interesting. But whenever they, there's an obvious difference whenever I mill the grain versus looking at like this white, soft, like powdery, bleached thing that they call flour. We call it dead flour.
Yeah, we call it dead flour.
Why is that?
Yeah. So this is what blew my mind. I'm like, why did no one tell us this? We have been buying flour off the shelves our whole lives, and never once did we think it wasn't in its original form. At least I didn't. I never even thought to question it. It was
the thought never crossed my mind.
Yeah. It was just never a topic. And so what happens because of that spoiling process, after they mill the flour or they mill the wheat, it goes through a sifting process to take out the bran and the germ, which contains pretty much all of
that's where everything is.
That's where everything is. And what's interesting, because that's the part that spoils, it is sold as a byproduct for cattle feed. So it is profitable to sift the flour, and they sell it so that it can be fed to cattle. So obviously that needs to be used quickly.
Yeah.
But what is left is just dead flour, essentially. And over the years, they had to eventually realize it was causing a lot of health problems. And so they would put vitamins back in. That's why you'll see the term enriched flour. But it still does not fortified. It still does not nearly compensate for what was lost. Yeah. And they've never been able to replicate that. You can't add back in what was naturally in there to begin with. And so, yes, what's on the shelf in the stores, it may not spoil. It might last, but that's why.
At what cost? It's not even the same thing anymore.
It's not the same thing. So when anything you buy, even if it's organic, that was just at one point organic wheat that has since lost all of its nutrients. So there's really no point, essentially. And that's why people have so many stomach problems with, gluten gets the blame, but it's the fact that the whole wheat isn't there, which gave your body all of the components needed to properly digest, absorb the nutrients. That's why my husband, he can eat everything that I make. I make pizza dough, bread, dinner rolls, cinnamon rolls. Your muffin recipe, by the way, is amazing. I need to quadruple the recipe next time. I mean, everything that I've made, he can eat it. And I always ask him, how do you feel? He was like, I feel great. And so I'm like, that's the only thing different is we just left the whole wheat intact. We just kept it together. It's so easy when you think about it. Now, the one thing I'll say is if you do truly have celiac disease, that is an allergy to wheat, this might not be an option for you. Right. But if it's someone who just has an intolerance, they usually can tolerate freshly milled
like
flour.
our neighbor Erica. She hadn't had gluten in 4 years.
Yes.
Until she tried freshly milled flour. Now she's baking with it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, it's a miracle.
I know every time I hear about that, it's almost like it reminds me, oh my gosh, like it's not just my husband, but it's actually working for other people as well.
Well, okay. So what about sourdough? That's been like the big trend lately. There are a lot of claimed health benefits for it. How does this work with sourdough?
So I'm not an expert on sourdough. I think I made one sourdough loaf in my life and then I let my starter die. So it was a lot of work for nothing. But from what I understand, is sourdough, because it has so few ingredients, it usually is a lot better on your digestion. However, if when you make your sourdough, you're using this same dead flour from the store, there's virtually, well, I don't want to say none, but there's a very little nutritional benefit. Even though you can digest it better, you might feel a little bit better eating it in comparison to store-bought bread. You've still lost all of or majority of the vitamins and nutrients needed. And so to me, if you're going to do sourdough, do it with freshly milled flour. And that is probably the best thing that you can do if you're going to make bread. I haven't gotten back into sourdough with the freshly milled because it's like a baby, you have to care for it all day long. I'm not there yet, but our neighbor Allison does. And so I think she's having really good success converting her starter over and using freshly milled flour.
Yeah. She brought us some of the sourdough to try. It was amazing.
It was so good.
Oh my gosh, it was excellent. Yes. I need to get on that train, but you're right. I was the same way. I even hosted a sourdough class and I'm the only person from that class who has not made sourdough. I kept my starter alive for I think a month or maybe a month and a half. And then I'm like, I'm over it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to get back into it. I want to do I think people do sourdough discard, bagels and pancakes and stuff like that. So I want to get into it.
Yeah, that would be really fun.
So what types of changes have you seen? I know your husband just couldn't eat gluten really before, but what about with your daughters or yourself? What kind of health benefits have you seen since switching? Yeah,
thankfully with my daughter, we didn't have concerns. So I don't know that I've seen drastic health changes with her, but what I have noticed with her is, if she has toast in the morning or maybe a dinner roll in the evening with dinner or lunch, a sandwich, she is full until the next meal. She's not asking for snacks every hour. But that would be the case with her before, is she just never seemed to get full. So I've noticed that she is satisfied and full much longer. She's very content. So that's the main thing I've noticed with her. But with me, what's crazy is, a couple things that just come to mind initially. So we live in Tulsa and the allergies here are unkind. They're not great. And so for years I had to take a nasal spray just to survive, mostly fall and spring. Right. And since milling my own flour, I have not needed a decongestant in any way. I have stopped taking Flonase, anything of the sort.
What a miracle.
I think maybe the one time I had a really bad cold or something, but day-to-day basis, I don't need that anymore. And I was considering some pretty intense, not procedures, but I was looking into, okay, what do I need to do for my allergies? Because this is unbearable. Right. And that's also a testimony that Sue Becker mentions on her podcast. I don't think I mentioned it, but she has, her podcast is called Sue's Healthy Minutes. And so that's a great resource if you want to hear more of the science behind it.
Yeah. Well, that's what you sent to us whenever we first got into it. I'm like, oh, this woman is amazing.
Yeah. And I don't know that I would have attributed allergies to this, but after hearing it on her podcast, I realized, oh my gosh, I don't need that anymore either. Yeah. So that was one. And then another difference that I noticed, and this has been a journey, trying to switch to healthier products. Can we talk about cycles on here? Is that okay?
Yes,
okay. Of course. My cycle used to be really long. I was an athlete. I was very active and never controlled the chemicals, in my life, just like most of us. And so over the years of getting more clean with that, they've gotten better and shorter, more to a normal length. But even in the last year of doing freshly milled flour, I'm almost down to a perfectly normal cycle. So it's even been a difference in the last year. I can just tell my body is more regulated with my cycle.
How long were your cycles before?
A few years ago, they were 45 to 60 days long.
Wow.
And it was like that since high school.
Oh my goodness.
And then, in the last few years, I would say lower 40s, upper 30s.
Oh, wow. What a miracle.
Yeah. And then in the last year, it's been 29 to 32 days.
Oh my goodness.
Which is amazing for me. So things just seem to be
What a drastic difference from
huge.
like 45, 50 to 60 days down to like 27 to 33. Yeah. That's amazing.
And my like cramping is way less. Like from what I understand, I don't think it's normal to have such awful cramps and symptoms. And so I even feel like just on a monthly basis, everything feels so much easier and normal. It's not this big painful event once a month. So that's been a huge change. Let's see. Just regularity. We talked about that, not with cycles, but just stools. It's a daily thing and it's not difficult. It's just a smooth process. Like it's not a long event, which sounds funny to say, but it's just even makes that easier. So you can just tell as a whole, my body is functioning better. I feel more clear-headed. I feel like some brain fog has lifted a little bit. So yeah, I mean, nothing super drastic, but they're all things that I notice on a daily basis in my life.
I mean, those are really impactful things to shift, like your cycling, going to the bathroom. It's funny that you said that because our daughter, since she started school, she's gotten into this routine of like, we get to school, we have to get there 20 minutes early because she has to poop for 10 minutes. And I'm like, a 3-year-old shouldn't be pooping for 10 minutes. And it's not like she's daddling. Like, it's not like she has an iPad or something. Like, she's just not done yet. And since we've switched to the freshly milled flour, I've noticed this has been over the past like 2-3 days. She's been done within like 2 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
And that's not something that I've put together until I just heard you talking.
Oh, that gives me chills. That's awesome.
Yeah. But I'm excited to see what it does for her because she has allergies. She has eczema. She has a peanut allergy, but she also just like gets like congested a lot, and she has a really small like nasal passage, and so sometimes at night she like I'm like, man, she's like, I feel like I just want to go open her mouth or something, which I know they're not supposed to mouth breathe, but I'll be really curious to see if this resolves that. I'll have to do an update part 2 episode if it does.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I feel like it took me a few months to really notice a difference with the allergies, but that was last fall that I started, and I haven't used anything in almost a year.
That's incredible. And also I don't get allergies until the fall. And so I'm like, I'm eating as much fresh milled goods as I can in preparation for like, I don't know if it's like ragweed season or something, but it hits me hard. So we'll see what happens this time around.
And when I make my recipe, so raw local honey is also really supposed to be helpful with allergies. So I try to buy raw local honey as the sweetener ingredient for when I make bread.
Yeah. So our neighbor Allison sent a link to our group chat for that 5-gallon thing of that Oklahoma local honey. Yeah, I bought it. It just came
nice. It's on my list.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the practical side. Say someone's listening and they're like, "Yes, sign me up yesterday. What do I need?" And they don't have a mom group chat like we do. What does someone need to get started?
Yeah, great question. So the very first thing, and possibly the only thing you need for a little bit, if you need to start small, would be a grain mill. That's the one tool that you have to have. And of course, your wheat berries.
What grain mill do you recommend?
So I have the Wonder Mill. The reason being that's the one Sue Becker uses. And at that point I was like, well, I trust her with my life. So if that's what she uses, I'm going to buy it. And so I use that one. It's, I believe, an impact mill, and it doesn't require any maintenance or cleaning. And so being a busy working mom, I was like, okay, that's great for me. I know you and most of the neighbors all have a mock mill, which is really cool. So I would say those are 2 great ones to look into. We have
the mock mill. I noticed it's all plastic. I haven't done a lot of research into it, but I'm considering switching to the Nutri-Mill because Olivia, my sister, who's also in our neighborhood, we are sharing that mock milk.
Oh, okay. I love it.
And so I was like, well, let's get this one for now and then we can share it. And I don't know, how into this we're going to get. And little did I know I would fall down the rabbit hole. I've gotten very into it. But now I'm kind of looking at the Nutri-Mill one too. It's beautiful. It has like that, I think it's bamboo or something.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That one looks really pretty.
Yeah.
I think the Wonder Mill might also be plastic. So maybe Chad, if you're listening,
Yeah.
I might be in for an upgrade.
But the mock mill, it was super affordable. Like all things considered, it's like $360 compared to some of the other ones, which are $600, $700, $800.
Yeah,
so.
they can get very expensive.
Yeah.
I was the most nervous to ask my husband for a grain mill, and I would just come to him with all the data and tears, and I would literally pray before I would go talk to him. I'd be like, God, please let him just be supportive. And thankfully, he was supportive of it. So, if
he can eat bread again.
Exactly.
He's like, heck yeah.
Now he gets it. He's always a little suspicious of my new things whenever I jump on something,
Same.
but he gets it now. So the first night that my mill arrived with my wheat berries, again, that was the only appliance I purchased. Literally, I think it delivered at 5 p.m. and I opened it and I was like, we're eating pancakes for dinner. I mean, immediately that was what I made. So truly that's all you need to get started is a way to mill the wheat berries into flour. And what's cool is the flour, after you see it milled, it has almost like a brown tint to it. And you can just tell this is in its most natural state.
Yes. And
it just looks and smells like it just came straight from the earth, which is really cool.
Where can people buy wheat berries? Can you buy them at a grocery store?
I
haven't seen them in a grocery store.
I haven't looked for it. Potentially, maybe certain like niche grocery stores. I haven't looked, but I like to buy in bulk. So there's so many different places you can buy. I did buy from Sue Becker on my first purchase. She has wonderful quality of grain from her supplier, but they don't do a drop ship to Tulsa. So it's really expensive. So since then I've bought from Azure, which actually is so funny. It is a farm in Oregon and that's close to where my husband grew up.
That's cool.
And they do a lot of regenerative farming. So really love the mission behind what they do. But Azure is a great way to buy organic, good quality wheat in bulk if you want. And they do deliveries around the country once a month.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll link Azure in the show notes too, because I think that one's really accessible. It's really affordable. If you can wait for the once a month shipping. I know for me, I did like a quick Amazon order of like a small 5-pound bag because I didn't want to wait. But I've been working on a bulk order from Azure too.
Yeah. And not long after, what I started doing was I bought big 5-gallon food grade buckets. I got the Gamma lids. And so my pantry now is it looks like we are preppers because I have all these massive buckets and, all my grain. But it's such a comforting feeling to know I have everything I need.
Yeah. This could sustain us for a really long time. Well, let's talk about that. So how do people store the wheat berries once you buy them? Because you buy them in 25-pound, 50-pound bags.
Yeah, you can buy anything from a really small,
5-pound
bag up
that's
to
what I did. It was like this big.
That big. Yeah, up to like a 25-pound or 50-pound bag. And so the best recommendation is to keep it in a cool and dry place. You don't want it exposed to sun. They'll usually come in mylar bags, I think is the right way to say it.
They kind of look like that burlap.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's what they look like. And so I just got like a plastic food grade bucket. And then a Gamma lid is an easy way to twist on and off. You can buy those on Amazon. You can buy those lids from Azure because the lids that come with it can be really difficult to pry on and off. Yeah, I helped our neighbor Holly pry one off and she was like, I hope you don't have nails on it.
Yeah. And so with my Azure order, I'm getting some of they're called Gamma lids.
Gamma lids.
Yeah, some of the Gamma lids for her. But I know this is a lot of information, so we will have links to everything that we talk about in the show notes so that someone can just go down and check it all out. But so you buy the 25-pound bags, you go through Azure, do the once a month drop, and then once you get it in, you store it in those big bins that you can seal. Now, our neighbor Holly has these little packets in there that suck the oxygen out. Do you do that?
I have not done that. I need to
research it.
Yeah, research it more. Some people do, some people don't. Some people freeze their grain when they first get it to potentially kill any bugs that are in there.
Oh yeah,
I've never done that.
The weevils.
Yeah, weevils. So I've never done that, and I haven't had any issues. I always carefully look at my grain as I'm pouring it and measuring it out. So yeah, I think there's a few different ways to like care for it once you get it and make sure the quality is good. I just haven't done that yet. Probably because I'm a busy mom. I don't know.
Yeah, just like all of us. And so like bare minimum, you just need something cool and dry.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, the Egyptians didn't have I don't even know what it's called. Those little packets that suck the oxygen out.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what it's called.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. Oxygen absorbers.
Yeah.
So.
And it lasted in a tomb for who knows how many years.
Apparently.
So.
Maybe they ate weevils every once in a while. I don't know, but
yeah, part 2 on the nutritional facts of weevils coming soon. And then there's also the ancient grain mixes. So I did buy the Ezekiel bread grain mix from Sue Becker's website.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I haven't tried that yet.
It's not in yet.
Okay, you'll have to tell me.
Well, you're gonna have to come over and teach me how to make Ezekiel bread because I'm nervous. I made the hamburger buns, and I think I did okay for my first go around of like actually making bread, but there is a learning curve for sure. Like baking in general, and then baking with the freshly milled flour because it's thirstier.
Yeah. What's been a fun part of the journey for me is, well, first of all, I've had a lot of fails. I mean, times where I'm like, I have to just throw this whole thing out because this was a total disaster. So if you have that, do not feel bad. Erica has texted me in a panic. She's been like, can you come look at my bread? And so I love that we all just support each other, and we all are going to have fails. But one of the things that has really been helpful for me is watching videos of people as they make different recipes, because they will teach you, okay, at every step, this is what it should look like. This is what it should feel like. Yeah. This is how you know you're ready to move on to the next step, which is the first rise, or when it's time to punch it down and roll it into, the loaf pans. And so that's given me confidence once I know what I'm looking for, what I'm feeling for. So there's a lot of people. One person that I recommend, her name is Lovely Belle Bakes.
Yes.
Her video, she's so sweet. I mean, I feel like we're friends. She doesn't know me, but her videos are so helpful. She does voiceovers through them, and I've learned so much just by watching her videos. Yeah. Her recipes never fail me. But yeah, it is a learning curve. It's different than normal baking. And if someone has a recipe that they love with just normal store-bought flour, I think, were you the one who put it into ChatGPT to get an adaptation for freshly milled flour?
Yeah, and it depends on the type of wheat. But Chat can convert a recipe, and it'll tell you what kind of wheat to use and how much more liquid to use, and all of that. And I also wanted to talk about the mixers because, you said the only thing you really need to get started is the mill and the wheat berries, which is true. And you can knead things by hand. A lot of us have KitchenAids, just like your regular standard. We got it on our wedding registry, that whole thing. And you warned me ahead of time. You said, even kneading bread aside, even the cookie dough batter that you made, the KitchenAid couldn't handle. Why is that?
I don't know all the technical terms behind it, but if you'll imagine, so you know how the KitchenAid thing arm, and you lock it into place. I had it locked and it was still flying up just with cookie dough. There was no yeast in this bread, and I wasn't trying to knead for 10 minutes. I was just doing a quick cookie dough mix. Yeah. I think it's just the density of the whole wheat flour, because every component is in there. It's just a more dense dough. It's a more dense product. So you need a mixer that can actually, I don't know if it's the torque or the horsepower or what it is, but you need a mixer that actually can handle it. The only reason, well, let me say this first. If you're going to start with quick breads, so like pancakes, waffles, muffins, things that don't require kneading or a rise, you don't need a mixer. You just kind of stir it by hand, like making a muffin mix. But as soon as you want to shift into making breads, things that require a rise, that require yeast, you need one of two things. You either, unless you want to knead by hand, which can take 30 minutes. And I'm sorry, I just don't have time for that. It'd be a great workout, but I don't have time for that. But you either need a bread machine, which I never had a bread machine. I never registered for one. The only downside I saw to a bread machine, because it does do a lot of the work for you. You just put the ingredients in and it runs its couple hour cycle. You can only do one loaf at a time. And
you're batching. And
I wanted to batch bake. And I just wanted more options. And so I bought the Bosch mixer. And I think one of the difference is the drive is not from above, like with the KitchenAid, but it comes from below. And just the way that
suctions to your counter. I bought one because you told me to, and I got it out. And I'm like, this is intense.
It's intense.
It's big, but you need it. No pun intended. Yeah. I trust you and I believed you, but I thought that my KitchenAid could mix my pasta dough.
Did you try it?
The pen flew out. I have a video of my husband. I have a video of Aaron like holding the KitchenAid down, and you like start to hear the gears grind, and I'm like, okay, let's turn it off. Like Stacie was right. And then you told me to think about cooking it. I'm like, yeah, there's no way. Because there's not yeast in pasta dough. Like I thought it could just mix it for me, and it could not.
The one thing I've heard, if you have a KitchenAid from 30 years ago, I think those can handle it. But the one that we all got like 10, 15 years ago, I don't know if they did something different. I think it's the Artisan KitchenAid.
Yeah.
It really struggles. People, and I would read, comments in Facebook groups about freshly milled flour. One person said, my KitchenAid literally like ran off the counter and fell on the ground. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so sad. And so I didn't want to ruin a perfectly good mixer. So we still have our KitchenAid. Like I'll use it for making, I don't know, icing or different things.
Right.
But if you have something that can handle it, it is a workhorse, and you can feel it doesn't struggle at all to make it.
And and like I said, it suctions to the counter. So like it's not going anywhere. And I love that like the people who made it knew that like that would happen, that it would be moving around just because of the amount of effort that it requires. But whenever you bake the recipes, it's not how you would imagine it to be with something that's so hard to knead. Like it's still like when I get the dough out, it's still soft and silky. Like the bread is still fluffy. You have a little bit of a heartier, like more rustic taste to it because of all the nutrients and the, the German brand being in there and not being sifted out, but it's still really nice, fluffy, like gorgeous bread.
Yeah. I learned what a window pane was. Didn't even know that was a real term. I was like, why are we talking about windows and doors? What is this? But that's a fun way to just check. Did you get the proper gluten? Again, gluten's not the enemy, but like, did you get the proper gluten development in the bread? And so that's how you know when you're done kneading is, can you stretch the dough apart and see through it without it breaking? And so the Bosch can get me a window pane in 8 minutes. There are other mixers out there that, other people love. Some are way more expensive. But to me, that was a really good starting point. But again, it was an investment, a couple $100s. And it was another one I had to go back to my husband and say, please, can I do this? And thankfully he was supportive and on board.
Yeah. By that point, he was so happy and full of like bread and carbs. He's like, whatever you want.
Exactly.
I love that. So I want to go on a little bit of a rabbit trail just because this is something that I absolutely love about you. And I love how like open you are and you're always willing to share like what's working for you and your family. You have 2 daughters and your first daughter, you did like kind of your standard hospital birth. And with your second daughter, you did home birth.
I did a home birth.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Thank you for asking. I love talking about it. So just to preface this, when the people who knew me 10 years ago found out I had a home birth, they were like, is this the same Stacie? They're like, are you kidding? So if that just shows you how big of a journey this has been in my life, one that I didn't even realize I was embarking on. But again, I never used to care about the ingredients I was using, the chemicals in our home. I grew up with convenience and I loved convenience. And so doing things the natural way, to me, I honestly thought it was weird. And I used to like make fun of it. And I have eaten humble pie ever since. Like I have truly repented.
Humble fresh milled pie.
Yes, humble fresh milled pie. I felt so guilty because really I was questioning God's way of doing things. But with my first, she's now 8, almost 9. I had a hospital birth, epidural, everything went well, no complications. And I sung the praises of that experience to everyone I knew. But between that and trying for a second, I would find myself at night watching home birth videos on YouTube. I don't know how I stumbled upon them, and I would just be sobbing. And this desire inside of me that I didn't even really knew was taking place started to grow. And I remember saying to the Lord, I really want a second. We're praying and believing for this. But God, if I'm blessed to have a second, can you please help me? I want to experience the other side. I want to experience what you've designed birth to be. And I fully want to acknowledge, like, there are medical emergencies. There have been situations where we are so lucky to have hospitals and the care that we have today. We're so lucky to have that. Like, I truly believe we live in a time where we have the best of both worlds.
Yes.
But I also know sometimes interventions are widely overused when it's not necessary. And I just had this heart posture of, okay, if I get pregnant another time, if everything goes well, if I am a candidate for it, if it's healthy for me and the baby, God, would you give me the chance to try this? And so I was terrified through my pregnancy. I was working with a midwife. Even that experience was night and day. Yeah. The care that they give, how intentional they are. Your prenatal appointments are an hour, hour and a half of them just spending time with
Oh,
you,
wow.
sitting on a couch with you, asking.
Not 60-second belly measurement and move on.
Correct. I mean, they're asking me questions that I wouldn't have even thought to discuss, but those questions.
Who did you use?
I used in Tulsa Modern Village Midwifery. Actually, when we moved back to Tulsa a few years ago, I was 30 weeks pregnant. So that was also scary, finding a new midwife group to just transfer to, but they were wonderful and so caring and compassionate. And it truly made me feel comfortable. And they explained, hey, when we come to your home, you have the birth kit. We bring all of our supplies. They said we have the Pitocin, if there's, a uterine hemorrhage, like we have all the things. The only thing we aren't is an operating room, but we have everything else.
Wow.
And so you have a transfer plan, you go through all of that.
Yeah.
And so one part of my heart was so excited because I knew it was what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
But then the other part of me was a little nervous and I felt like a fraud. So I didn't tell anybody that I was planning a home birth. They would ask, where are you delivering at? And I would say, oh, the hospital, because that was my transfer plan.
Course,
and so the day of, I started having contractions at like 5 a.m, but I just thought they were backaches. And by noon, I gave birth on our bed. The birth tub in our bedroom that they blew up and they were filling up with water, it didn't even have time to inflate because things progressed so quickly.
What a miracle.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I was so in denial of how far along I was.
Yeah.
And I followed the Christian hypnobirthing app, which
yes, I've heard of that.
It sounds like weird, but it's not hypnosis. All it is just listening to scripture
like
and prayer.
affirmations.
Yeah, it's just and it's practicing your breathing, which I used to be like, oh, that's so dumb. Why do we need to practice breathing? I'll get an epidural. I don't need to practice breathing. Yeah. And that helped me so much, and it was the most beautiful, holy moment to have a natural birth at home. And I would also do it in a birth center. It doesn't have to be at home, but just
you're like making me tear up
you
you talking about all this. It's just so beautiful.
It was seeing a side of the Lord and God's plan that I felt so privileged to be able to experience. And it was so empowering as a mom to know I'm not going to believe the lie that I can't do this, because I think that's fed to us. Yes. Now, again, it's one thing if you need emergency surgery, if you need that intervention, praise God, we have that available because it has saved many lives. But if you don't need it and if you want to try it, it was so empowering to me to realize God has given me everything I need, and I did it. And it also gave me this fierce, like mama bear feeling afterwards, and the oxytocin high that you experience, it's natural. It's not inhibited from the epidural. Right. I felt everything so well. My recovery was amazing. I mean, an hour later I was up walking around, sitting in the kitchen, and it was just the most beautiful experience. And so that was, 2 years ago. And that was just another step in my journey of, okay, God, your way is better. Yes. What else have I been missing? Never thinking that would lead to bread. The two are very unrelated, but time after time, he's showing me, hey, what I designed so long ago, what I created you for, and the things I've provided, really it was with your best interest in mind, and it works. And so I know not everyone wants a home birth, but it was, I'll show people pictures. I'm like, do you want to see? And it was so amazing. I've told people I would give birth right here, right now, again, if I could experience that, because it truly is, it's so heavenly.
Life-changing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Christian, you're going to actually have to get me tissues because I'm going to have to dab up these tears.
I know, I saw you doing that.
It's just so beautiful to hear you talk about it. And I feel like there's a really big parallel in I feel like our culture is just yearning to get back to God's way and how we were all designed. Thank you.
I love it. Yeah, we've realized that convenience and only doing what feels right. I think we're realizing there are costs to that, and there's cost, because essentially what we're doing is we're saying, God, actually, you don't know better. We know better, and
it's kind of a faith exercise.
It really is. It really is, and it's. I just think God must just be smiling up there like, I had this waiting for you all along. And, but I think he's so proud of his children for just wanting to come back to outside of our faith. God, what else do you have for us? Like, how did you design our daily life to be? And we don't have to miss out on that. Yeah. So I think, even just learning about the bread, it's something you want to share with others, because even though it's just food, you see God in what you're doing. I see him when I look at the grain. I think about the Bible and just how everything comes alive for me.
I love that. Okay, do I have mascara
No.
anywhere? I'm good.
Oh, just a teeny bit under like the corner.
I've
I can't
actually
see
never teared up on a podcast.
Aw.
Well, maybe I've teared up, but I've definitely not done that.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
Oh,
that's really
so
sweet.
I love that. That's really
Thank
beautiful.
you.
I have a really similar desire in my heart, but like a probably even bigger fear of home birth.
Yeah. You know, a great way to like take half a step towards it is a birth center. It's
Yeah.
really the same. You know, it's the same as a home, but I think people who desire a more natural approach feel better with that as a first step. Just, I don't know, it feels, I don't know how or why, but I think people who are afraid of home birth do that and you ultimately get the same experience.
Yeah. Because they have like bedroom setups. It doesn't look like a hospital room.
It doesn't. It's very calming. Like the lights are dim. You can usually have like a tub birth if you want.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main thing is I don't think we realize when we're in a hospital and you've got like all the beeps and people coming in and out and constant monitoring and the pressure to get in and out quickly because it is a profitable business for them. I mean, of course, like to no one's fault, that just is what it is. Birth is profitable. They want to turn people quicker. And so when you start to feel that rush, like your body senses when you don't feel safe. And when you know, birth is such a private thing that your body and your cervix even can tighten up and you can regress. Like you hear about people regressing in labor and delivery. And not saying that's always the reason, but if you feel like you're in a safe and calm and protected environment where people are fully supporting your wishes, I think you're just going to do so much better in the labor and delivery process.
And I've heard so many women share stories of like, the nurse told me to stop pushing because the doctor wasn't there to catch the baby yet.
Unbelievable. Okay, can I just say, thanks for saying that because this is also what blew my mind. Have you heard of the FER, the fetal ejection reflex?
No.
Okay. I did not know that was a thing until right before I had my second, but I just would read people talking about it.
Yeah.
So imagine like when you throw up, it is completely involuntary.
Right.
Mostly. I mean,
You can't stop
You
it.
can't stop
Yeah.
it. Like, especially if it's like food poisoning or something,
Right.
there is no stopping it.
Yeah.
It is involuntary. Oops, your body just does it. So I'm laying on my bed. I'm about 8-9 centimeters. And I'm just, focused and moving through, just breathing through the contractions and just letting them happen, just riding them like a wave, not tensing up and fighting it, which is what I did in the hospital with my first, which is why I needed an epidural. So I'm laying on the bed and then all of a sudden, it's going to sound so weird. All of a sudden I hear myself like bear down and grunt. I was like, ugh. Like, that noise if you're like grunting and bearing down, it was completely involuntary. And I was like, in my mind, I'm thinking, what is happening right now? I did not tell myself to do that. And I heard one of my midwives say, guys, she's in transition. Her body is starting to push. And in the moment, I was like, I'm not trying to do this, but my body started pushing on its own because my body knew now is the time to push. No one had to tell me it's time to push.
Wow.
And they just said, hey, every time you have a contraction, wait for that urge. And so my body actually naturally knew when to push. It knew when to start. It knew when to stop. No one was forcing me. No one was telling me don't push. And the pushes were so productive and everything, we were working together with my body and it wasn't working against it. I can't imagine trying to not do that. Like that's completely inhumane if you ask me. It was just a very protective environment. And my midwives and my doulas are amazing, by the way.
What's the difference, by the way?
Okay, great question. So sorry, this is a tangent, but a midwife is your medical trained professional. They're licensed midwives to navigate the prenatal process. I'm probably butchering the clinical definition of this, but they're licensed to navigate the process with you prenatal, postnatal, but then they're also fully licensed to deliver. And they stitched me up right after if you have any tears, like they navigate the whole birth process. But a doula is someone you can hire. You can also hire a doula for the hospital.
Okay.
It's someone who is really there as your support. You go through certification for that as well, but they understand your desires, your wishes. They're there to help you understand like how to push, how to be more productive during labor. And so they were there just to help guide me through it. And I was terrified of natural birth. Like I shared, I didn't think I could do it. I felt like a total farce. And they were there just to encourage me. And this is what saved me. Every time I had a contraction, they applied counter pressure on my back. They knew exactly where on my back. And it took the intensity of a contraction down like 5 notches every time. Wow. It was amazing. And so they know the things you need to successfully navigate the pain. And anyway, so I had my whole team there, and I just felt so confident in everyone who would help me deliver safely.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of things. We've talked about, the freshly milled flour, the health benefits, home birth. This is something that it just exudes out of you. I don't know if that's the right word, but you so naturally talk about that every time we get together. I was talking to my sister. She was like, yeah, the first time I met Stacie, she was like, here's pictures of my home birth. And I love that about you. You're such a great friend, and I feel so blessed to know you. And it's been so fun kind of bringing our neighborhood mom text thread to life digitally and inviting everyone to come in and kind of sharing that knowledge with you. Now, you shared with me off air that you were okay sharing your Instagram handle if anyone has any questions or they want to talk about home birth. It's not something that you regularly post about, but your DMs are open, right?
Always.
Okay,
yeah.
so where can everyone find you?
Yeah, my Instagram is Stacie King. Stacia is my legal name. Stacia C King. It's, just me on there. I'm not, a brand or anything, but if I can encourage anyone in overcoming their fear about home birth or just wanting to talk about the experience, milling, whatever it is, I love to just help other women pursuing those desires.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was so much fun, and I cannot wait to try your pasta.
Yes. And that's a wrap on today's episode. If you loved this conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs it. You can find us on Instagram at Soak Podcast for more inspiration and wellness insights. Thanks for being here. And until next time, keep tuning into what truly matters.